Hi, this is Alfozia Nihar from At Home Tuition. Welcome to our session today. The topic that we're going to discuss in our today's video is part 2 video of the conic sections parabola. In our previous video, we saw the introduction of the parabola and the standard form, and we have also discussed an example how to sketch the parabola when the equation is in the standard form. As I have mentioned in the previous video, most parabolas are not given in that form. So, we need to take a look at how to graph a parabola that is given in the general form. F of x is equal to ax square plus bx plus c. In this form, the sign of a will determine whether or not the parabola will open upwards or downwards as discussed in the previous video. Unlike this previous form, the standard form, we will not get the vertex for free this time. We cannot directly note down the vertex. However, it will be easy to find. We have a very simple formula to find the vertex. I'll give you the formula now. Here is the formula. The x coordinate can be found just by plugging in the values of b and a here, negative b over 2a. And y coordinate is very simple. All you have to do is just plug in this x coordinate in the given equation. That is called f of negative b over 2a. To get the vertex, all we do is compute the x coordinate from a and b and then plug this into the function to get the y coordinate. Not quite as simple as the previous form, but still this is not very difficult. Okay, note as well that we will get the y-intercept for free from this form. The y-intercept is nothing but 0, c. All you have to do is just take down the c and take the 0 for x coordinate. That would be your y-intercept. So we no need to do any computations for the y-intercept in this case, the second one. Okay, let's graph some parabolas by taking few examples. Here is an example. Please have a glance over this equation. We have 3x square minus 6x plus 5. For this parabola, first identify what are all the values for a, b and c. Ax square plus bx plus c. You just have to compare this with the form and then identify. Because why I am stressing this point is you have to be careful with the sign. You have to also notice down the sign. So a is equal to 3, b is negative 6 and c is positive 5. Please make sure that you are careful with the signs when identifying these values. So we know that this parabola will open up because a is a positive one. Okay, here are the evaluations for the vertex. Formula to find the x coordinate is negative b over 2a. Just replace b by negative 6 and a by 3. So we will get negative times negative, so positive 6 and positive 6 in the denominator. So x coordinate is equal to 1. And we know that y coordinate of the vertex is nothing but just plug in this x value in the given equation. So by doing the calculation, I am getting y coordinate is equal to 2. We have discussed how to sketch the parabola step by step in the previous video. For more detailed information about sketching the parabola, you can refer a previous video, part 1 video in conic sections parabola. Okay. Now first step is vertex. We have got the vertex. Now second step is to find the y-intercept. Y-intercept is nothing but 0, the constant. So we need not do any calculation here. We know the concept of axis of symmetry. So we will be having one more point with 2 units. So 2, 5 will also be a point on the parabola. Now let us sketch. Let me just repeat the steps to sketch the parabola. Step 1 is to find the vertex. Step 2 is to find the y-intercept. And step 3 is to solve for f of x is equal to 0 to find the x coordinates of the x-intercepts in case if they exist. And step 4 is to just find one more point that we will be having on either side of the vertex. This is just to make sure we get a somewhat accurate sketch. If the parabola has 2 x-intercepts, then we already have these points. In case if the parabola has only 1 intercept or 0 intercept, we can just either plug in another x value to use the y-intercept. You can just use this y-intercept and plug in some x value. And the axis of symmetry is to get the second point. Now, after finding these 3 things, you can just sketch the graph. Graphing part is very simple. Vertex would be the highest or lowest point in the parabola. Since this is opening upwards parabola, this would be the lowest point. I unplot y-intercept and plot this 2, 5 and connect the points. That's it. Sketching part is very easy after finding all these 3. Hope you're clear with this concept. When the equation is not given in the standard form, I mean when the vertex is not easily identified without any calculation, then you have to use this method. You have to use this formula to find the vertex first, and y-intercept is very easy. 0, the constant, and you have to find one more point. You can just take any x value with the y-intercept just to make sure that you get an accurate graph. Just sketch all the 3 points that you got on the grid. That's it. This is how we sketch the parabola when the equation is in this form. Let me take one example where the parabola will open downwards. I mean a should be negative. Here is the next example. So what is the coefficient of x square? -1. Am I right? So in this case a is equal to -1, b the coefficient of x is 8, c the constant. There is no constant, so c should be equal to 0. While sketching, as a first step, identify what is ABC if your question is of this form. From these we see that the parabola will open downwards since a is negative here. Okay, here are the vertex evaluations. I'm just going to plug in these values in the vertex formula, x coordinate formula. Plug in b and a, I'm getting 4. And here f of 4 would be, if I just replace all x by 4, I'm getting 16. We have got a vertex. So the vertex is 4, 16. And we also can see that this time there will be x-intercepts. So in fact, let's go ahead and find them. X-intercept is nothing but setting y equal to 0. So set the left side equal to f of x is equal to 0 and solve for x. We have x square. So you'll be getting 2 answers for x. Taking x as a common factor out, you'll be factoring the right side. In case if you're getting a factor, a product on the right side, I mean any one of the side equal to 0, you can equate each of the factor to 0 and solve for x. Am I right? So negative x is equal to 0. It means x is equal to 0. And if you equate this equal to 0, you'll be getting x is equal to 8. So x can be either equal to 0 or 8. So these are the x-intercepts. And what would be the y-intercept here? Constant is 0. So notice that 0, 0 is also the y-intercept. This will happen on occasion. So don't get excited about it when it does. At this point, we have got all the information we need in order to sketch the graph. So just plot all these points, vertex, x-intercept and y-intercept, and then just connect all the points and create a parabola. As a final topic in this video, under this conic section parabola, we need to briefly talk about how to take a parabola in general form and convert it into the form f of x is equal to ax minus h the whole square plus k. This method is called completing the square process. It is probably best to do this with an example. Let me take one example. Okay, at this point, we are going to complete the square here. However, it is a slightly different process than the other times that we have seen it to this point. Okay, here is an example, or I'll take an example with a positive sign here. Okay, here is an example. The thing that we have got to remember here is that we must have a coefficient of 1 for the x square term in order to complete the square. No problem even if we have no coefficient here. You can just assume it to be 1. Okay, so to get that, we will first factor the coefficient of x square term out of the whole right side as follows. So I'm taking 2 as a common factor out. Now notice that this will often put fractions into the problem. That is just something that we will need to be able to deal with. Also note that if you are lucky enough to have a coefficient of 1 on the x square term, we won't have to do this step, because already if it is 1, we just have to proceed from this step. Now this is where the process really starts, differing from what we have seen to this point. We still take 1/2 of the coefficient of x and square it. However, instead of adding this to both sides, we do that the following with it. Middle term is 12 over 2, so 6. Negative 6 over 2 would be just negative 3, whole square is 9. I'm just going to add and subtract that 9, the coefficient, half of the square of the coefficient of x. We add and subtract this quantity inside the parenthesis. Note that all we are really doing here is adding in 0, since 9 minus 9 is 0, no? The order listed here is important. We must first add and then subtract. First add and then subtract. The next step is to factor the first three terms and combine the last two. If you're factoring this, it will be of this form, no? A plus b or a minus b, the whole square formula. So x square minus 6x plus 9 is nothing but x minus 3 the whole square. Am I right? And if you combine the last two terms, you'll be getting negative 15 over 2. Hope you're clear till this step. And then multiply 2. Just distribution. Yes, we have completed the square. We have just transformed the equation given in this format to this by just completing the square step by step. The process is very simple. Also, please be careful when you don't have any number before x square. In case if you don't have a coefficient of 1 on the x square term, you may be having some number. If there is no coefficient mentioned, it means 1 there. If it is a negative sign there, it means negative 1. So the process is identical outside of that. So we won't put it as no value in the place of a. All you have to do is, if there is no coefficient mentioned before x square, assume it to be 1. If it is a negative sign before that, if it is negative 1. That's it. We have discussed how to sketch a parabola when it is given in this form and also this form. And finally, we were discussing how to complete the square. Hope you're clear with this concept. In case if you have any query regarding this topic, kindly let me know. See you in the next